radio station. No part of this program may be reproduced in full or in parts without the express written consent of the producers, the McKinney Media Group. This is Hard Copy on the McKinney Broadcasting Radio Network. Hard Copy seeks to lay out the facts in simple fashion for the inclusion of all Bahamians and Bahamians at heart, to focus every day to move forthright in our manner to build a progressive and developing country. Our desires for a Bahamas with a competent, skillful, and productive workforce. We want a country that can feed and sustain itself. We want a country with a brilliant visionary action plan, ready to embrace a future of hope and prosperity. We encourage like-minded Bahamians to participate with intelligence and honest contributions. After all, we have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create. We've got a people to inspire and empower, and generations of born and unborn Bahamians we the people must protect and plan for. And if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Today on the Hard Copy, Serious Business, Part 2. It's a series that we're doing. It's a series about serious business. This is Hard Copy.
When I fly with Sky. Sky Bahamas. When I fly with Sky. Sky Bahamas. The plane them spanking clean. The pilots them voice red. They fly you out on time. They flight attendants red. Service is their passion. With you they take good care. Safety is their culture. Yes, they'll get you there. When I fly.
Fly with us to Fort Lauderdale or the beautiful Bahama Islands. Book today at 702-2600 or visit our website at skybahamas.net and experience Sky.
Mother to mother, let's face it, it's tough raising children. Yet despite the challenges that you may face, many of you are raising champions. And we want to celebrate you. The CEO Network, Farm Press International, and Bishop Lawrence Roll presents the first annual Mother to Mother Raising Champions Weekend, featuring Magic Johnson's mom, Dr. Christine Johnson, and Pastor Jolinda Wade, mother of Dwayne Wade. A gala banquet on Saturday, May 16th, 7 p.m. at the British Colonial Hilton. Tickets are $150 and available at Forsyth's Communications, Rosetta Street, and the Singing Bishop's Delight Store on Market Street and Palm Tree Avenue. Join the Singing Bishop, Lawrence Roll, at the 21st Annual Mother's Day Concert on Sunday, May 17th, 7 p.m., featuring gospel recording artist Beverly Crawford at the Golden Gates Ministries International, Carmichael Road. Tickets are $50 in advance and $20 at the door. Help us celebrate our mothers. The first annual Mother to Mother Raising Champions Weekend, May 16th and 17th.
May I have your attention, please? Why? Well, I'm sure you'd like to hear about this week's savings at Super Value and quality supermarkets like Mazola Cooking Oils, 40-ounce bottle, $3.79. Bluebird Juice, selective flavors, 46-ounce can, $2.99. Value Time Towel, 1 roll, 99 cents. Domestic foil, 25-foot size, $1.49. Sugardale Meat and Sierra Chicken Franks, 12-ounce package, 99 cents. You may now head to your favorite Super Value or quality supermarkets.
Steve McKinney, a show off the chin.
I feel Mr. McKinney is excellent, he's professional in his field, and he takes care of all issues.
I listen to Hard Copy. I like to hear various viewpoints, and it helps.
Hard Copy is my show. Steve McKinney is my man.
It is Wednesday, the 13th day in the month of May, 2015, as you battle the congested city streets and drive home traffic. Partly cloudy skies on the outside for you. 81 degrees right now in the nation's capital. There's showers in the vicinity over New Providence. There's a low tonight of 75, and there's also a 10% chance of rain in the forecast later today. Thank you so much for joining us on the drive home. I'm Steve McKinney. This is Hard Copy. We have brought you today by the Bank of the Bahamas, the Bank of Solutions, BTC, every day. Super Value, the All Bahamian Supermarkets, the McKinney Media Group, for effective PR concepts and advertisement, even on Hard Copy. And, of course, Island Made Products, Ministry of Tourism, Mother to Mother Weekend, it's coming up. Also, Advantage Insurance and Brokers, Super Wash, Ron's Electric Motors, Sky Bahamas, professionals in every way, every day. CFAL, Colino Financial Advisors Limited, Executive Printers for LaserCheck Prints, Henry F. Store, the Light People on Mackey Street, and Le Bleu Ultra Pure Drinking Water. We're talking about serious business on our series of serious business this week, because after all of the fanfare, the hoopla, the frolicking, the gallivanting, and everything else last week, we've got to get back to basics and get on the train of serious business, because the country needs a lot of things done. Call me today at 325-0235 or 632-502-5253. Go to us on the cable top box at 970 and on TuneIn Radio, iPad, iPhone, and the Android. You can get us here on Hard Copy. You follow us on Facebook, Hard Copy, on Twitter, Hard Copy Bahamas. You can also send me a text at 376-9234. Serious business. We were looking at yesterday, as we began the series about serious business and how much we have to get this country going and how we have been depending upon that big project in the West and how that may be the biggest disappointment of all time. And we are hoping that it isn't, because we're praying for its success, because its success means success for the Bahamas in many regards and the Bahamian people. And you, especially the workers who are looking for things to get done and things to be done in this country. Every day, we open this program and we talk about something in the program, in the intro of our program. We say this all the time, that we encourage like-minded Bahamians to participate. It says, after all, we have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create. We've got a people to inspire and empower, and even generations of born and unborn Bahamians to protect and plan for. My question to you today is, are we doing that? Are we, the people, being inspired and empowered? And are we doing so for the next generation of the born and the unborn Bahamians? And are we protecting what's left of this country today and making future plans as a people for the next generation? The way things are going, we are a loose society. That's a general description based upon attitudes and mentality and approach to serious business in a country that needs all hands on deck to build it. We're not 50 years old as far as an independent nation, but we've got slackness in our vocabulary and in our attitudes toward nation building. It's almost as if we do not care. We're just doing what we feel like. And we believe that there's no accounting at the end of the day. There is even accounting nationally for what we do, as well as there's accounting for what we do individually. If the people are off page, then the nation is off page. So we've got to get back to some serious business. We've got to sober up. And no matter how much I say this, I could never say it enough, because I believe that we are a people these days, loose in our approach to a lot of things, almost don't care, laissez-faire, cavalier, nonchalant. Does anybody matter? Does anything matter? These are things for introspection today that you've got to find yourself thinking about. And I know that a lot of people may not be serious about it, because really, in some people's neck of the woods, man, I just trying to survive from day to day. Whatever happens goes. I can't change nothing. Well, that is not true. Let me disavow you of that right now. Because the more you appear to be slack, nonchalant, uncaring, and apathetic, those who are in leadership will not find their heads. And leadership is lacking across the board, especially political leadership, especially governmental leadership today. And all I'm doing here on this program, Hard Copy, is trying to keep you on page so that we can continue to press forward in building a country among a people who are in the majority and have been for some years now, 40 plus. And we look around and we wonder, what are we doing? Because we can't seem to find enough millionaires that we have grown in the past 2 to 3, 4 decades. And we can see where our people are advancing at a level that we are no more domicile or just domestics. The time has come for us to get serious. And seriousness can only happen when the leadership gets serious or appears to be serious. Remember now, any country, community will take on the complexion of its leadership, its mean people. And it appears today that we do lack leadership. So are we on page? When we started Hard Copy about 9-10 years ago, we asked the question, what is it that we want to do? We want to build a nation. We want to be a part of the building of a nation. And we need to be a part of a building of a nation because the nation is a ever-growing, it's an ever-progressive thing. It's continuous. It is never-ending. It is always trying to achieve another level for its people and for the society, for the whole structure of country. And so it may have been a good idea almost 10 years ago to come up with a show of commentary and participation from the Bahamian public, input and insight and education and information for edification to help us get to a level of achieving what great nations achieve. Prime Minister Christie likes to say that we are this most wonderful nation in the whole wide world, something along those lines. And I wonder if he believes that. And this is not picking on him, but this is to get us on the same page, because there's something missing here. With people who want to see us progress, but people who understand that we are in a stage of regress. And they aren't afraid to say so. But we said in our mantra, we have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create. But we know there are no jobs really that we're creating. We know that industry is really lacking. But this is the feeling of an idea whose time has come, that we must find a way to inspire and empower our people. And that it is left to us, this generation of people, to ensure that we, the people, ensure that Bahamians, future Bahamians, are planned for and are protected. These are simple words, you know. This is a simple thing, but are we doing these things? And the answer is that there's a lot left to be desired. Now, as we look at what we're talking about today as serious business, we saw and we talked about yesterday the fact that, you know, Bahama may be a big problem for us, image-wise, reputation-wise, and otherwise. It has a lot of implications if it does not come off. We believe that the Prime Minister is working assiduously to find if they are going to stop work as they appear to be doing, and people are going to pull out, and Chinese are going back home in the droves, which is good, but the place is not finished. We are hoping that Prime Minister Christie has something up his sleeve. Not a trick, but a contingency plan. The contingency plan, we're hoping, would bring relief and comfort to the minds of many who are now going home from Bahama because there's nothing happening and there's no jobs to be had. That could amount into thousands. We don't know what Ismailian is doing now as far as trying to find monies to continue this project that seems to have stalled. There has been no official announcement from Christie, but you have been watching with interest and you see that there's no opening date in 3 occasions that we can't seem to get to. And we don't know now what they're going to do. So this one is in limbo at best. We're hoping for better news. Hopefully, the Genting Group, or the Genting Group, may be a quiet alternative in the arsenal of Mr. Christie and his government to bail out this group that seems to have stalled. We hope, because we don't want to be left with the monstrosity of a building smack dab in the middle of the West unfinished. We don't want that. So we're hoping that there's something happening privately and quietly that Christie will perhaps announce anytime soon, hopefully more sooner than later. But that doesn't mean that we are out of the woods, because we are sober now. We are realizing that there's certain things that must be done. There's a lot that's riding on this. There's a lot that's riding on the fact of the matter that unemployment continues to skyrocket, and that more people are going to the layoff lines, and that we are perhaps on the brink of even more union problems, because unions are not going to stand by and allow for the things that are happening to happen without a fight. So we could be in for a good challenge as a country and as a people in short order. Just look at what is happening. The news on the labor front, disheartening, disappointing, disastrous. The Bahama workers joining the unemployment line. BTC, BEC, more layoffs. BEC will definitely be laying off. BTC plans to lay off for sure because of competition and all the other things that are coming on stream. We know the situation in the private sector. This is serious business, friends. What are we going to do with all these people? We know the situation in the private sector. Royal Bank laying off, Scotia Bank laying off, offshore banks laying off, all kinds of people laying off. And those people with big mortgages belonging to the middle class, not certain as to what's going to happen futuristically for them. And many of them are past the age of 40. Very difficult age to start over again. This is our Bahamas. And we better wake up to the reality of it. So we see that Scotiabank is going to do a serious consolidation, shutting down several branches, including the family violence. And those people are going to be sent home. Is the government speaking to those issues? Maybe now, as we look at it, Ryan Pinder saw through his crystal ball these dire circumstances. After all, he was in charge of the financial services sector, and he was a big man in the Christie's cabinet who jumped ship from the cabinet and hauled tail to the private sector to deal with Deltec Bank, that we understand from our international sources may be buying up some other big banking business in the Bahamas that will soon come to fruition as negotiations continue. Maybe he saw something that we didn't see. But when he jumped, he didn't say abandon ship. This is interesting. Leadership is lacking in many areas, and we question a lot of things that are happening. Atlantis will have to lay off staff. Why is Steve giving you all this bad news? It's not bad news, it's the reality. Brace yourselves. And we speak it clean and clear for the nation to hear, because we would like to see someone do something to not have these things happen. Some things are long already decided. The cost of doing business in the Bahamas is huge. To do business in the Bahamas, especially with the this company called Bahamas Electricity Corporation, is not an easy task. Power cuts, blackouts. People are losing money. Businesses are losing money. Small businesses are hurting big time. Losing equipment, losing money, losing faith. It seems the only thing that we have an abundance of in the Bahamas these days is crime, which falls to the feet of the government that they must do more to do something about it. We know it's not a governmental problem. We know it's a national problem of bad attitudes, of tired people, of sick and tired of people who just don't give a damn in many cases anymore. But we have a country to build. How do we work through with all of these things that we find are standing in our way as major obstacles and challenges? How do we work through that? Well, the good Christian people have been praying. That's more than a lot of other people can say. Praying. Prayer without works is dead. And while some can pray, there are others who must be working. Others like Perry Gladstone Christie, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who has to get moving with good advice and get the job done. There's a lot on his plate. But he's the man in charge, and he must find a way to work it out. Yesterday on the show, I had Leslie Miller on, who's still the executive chairman of PEC, though it has been speculated that his demise is imminent, that he and the whole board will be dismissed very shortly. He's working. He's working and doing his job as best he could under the circumstances, though they told him nothing, though they said nothing to him or the board. And when I say they, the government said nothing to him or the board about anything. It leaves a lot to be desired when one is left to calculate or to consider that the executive board appointed by the government of the Bahamas is getting directions from the management of a corporation that is supposed to be governed by the executive board. Well, maybe it shows you how we've got our shoes on left and right, or our shirts on back and front. Maybe it shows you how we've got the cart before the horse, which is all abnormal. Maybe we're thinking in an abnormal manner in the governings of the country. Because under no circumstances, anywhere in the world, by any level of standards of civilized people, can we accept that that's how it's done. I draw that to you to show you that maybe all of this time that we've been talking about a schizophrenic government, we've been right. Uncertain, not so sure, bipolar, to use some terms to get your attention, to show you what is actually happening. What is going on? It's not done that way. And if that's how we're governing, are we governing like that in other areas? Unknowing to us, this is serious business. This is serious business. And I'm here to prick your conscience today, especially those who are tuned in from the House of Parliament, those who are in government. What are we doing? We tried to implement value-added tax. We did it by the skin of our chinny chin chin, as they say in the fairy tale world. Almost ill-fated. Why? Lack of information. Why? Doing things backward. And by the way, we are collecting this money, aren't we? But do we know definitively what we are doing with it? We have a lot of things that we have got to get serious about. So Leslie believes now that one of the best things to do to try to turn the country around and get serious is that the Prime Minister himself must jump on a plane and head east to the Golden Sun in Beijing and see if he can sit down as a government to another government and appeal to make this project out west work, because obviously and unfortunately, this present administration, to their credit or to their discredit, had put all of their eggs in one basket and had been depending upon the success, the early opening and the success of Bahama. But now, doesn't look so pretty. And so Leslie believes that the best thing to do is for the Prime Minister to jump on a plane.
I think what needs to be done now, from my honest opinion, and being involved with cabinet before, and as a businessman, the Prime Minister, Mr. Ismailian, appointing the statue of Mr. James Smith, Michael Keatis, Alison Maynard as the legal team, along with Mr. Obi Wilsham, should now get a flight, go to Beijing, meet with the Chinese government, indicate to them the Bahamas' grave concern about this project, that failure is not an option, that $3 billion has already been put in the ground in our country, and that whatever is necessary to facilitate the completion of this project on behalf of our people as well as the Million and their group needs to be done. I think they need to reconstruct whatever was done between the two parties with the Import-Export Bank of China. But get it right. There's too much at stake. If that project doesn't succeed, if that project isn't open within the next 3 months to 6 months, I would say maximum 4 months, this country is going to be in peril. We must get Bahama completed. And my suggestion to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, go to Beijing. I've been there. I was the first minister in the government. In fact, the first Bahamian minister to visit China. That was back in 1992. I was invited there as the Minister of Trade and Industry. And I went there. And you sit with the Chinese, and once you explain to the Chinese that is on behalf of the people of your country, they listen to you. They would listen to this government more than to listen to this million of those, because you're now dealing with a country and not a company. That needs to be done. And it needs to be done more sooner than later.
That's very clear. That's Miller. Very clear. But look at where we are. Look at our predicament. This beautiful sun-soaked shores of the Bahamas, now depending heavily, almost have to go to China with hat in hand to save a whole nation of people who have been around for dynasties and whom we are no match for to even be sitting down negotiating. But will it come right down to the government of the Bahamas having to go and do exactly what Mr. Miller is saying? It seems like desperate times, doesn't it? Well, this is the reality. That's why I'm telling you, there's no time for joking around. This is serious business. If you know what's riding on that project, you will understand very clearly why Miller has said what he said. And others know what he is saying to be perhaps the right approach. But what would the Bahamian people have to say about that? I want to open my line for you today on those issues, but there's so many things along the lines of serious business. Write that down as one of the things. Should we now have to do that? Or should we wait and see if Christie has another alternative that's better, that can get that project moving? Because basically that project is stalled. Basically, it's theater now. They're fooling around with little things and it looks like people are working, but the project's not moving. That's the reality. The other reality is what I told you yesterday about the amount of things that they find themselves involved with now. Problems with unions, problems with their neighbors, breezes, legal problems in court, legal problems with the casino operators, legal problems in court with five-star operators. They have tremendous legal problems with the government on the roads. There's a litany of problems. Now contractors are pulling out, doing what they're doing because they can't get paid. And a drove of Chinese left town yesterday and have been leaving town because they headed back because there's no money to pay them. And then there's this thing about this building already running out of money, which beckons the question, are we serious as a people? Do you think that we have spent, and this is another question for you today, write it down. Do you think that we've already spent $3.5 billion on that project? Look at it. You don't have to be a construction expert to give me your opinion. You tell me what you think. Bahamians aren't fooled. Residents who live in the Bahamas aren't fooled. We've got all kinds of expertise here. You think we've spent $3.5 billion out there? I had somebody who does this kind of work, not only construction, but as an actuary, a person who advances and advises governments, called this show yesterday and suggests that not even $1 billion is in that ground, as I said 3 weeks ago. And I don't know anything about money. And this person who advises governments around the world, including this government, says that if $800 million have gone into that building, they've done great. So what has happened to the money should be a question. If they need more, have run out of money. This same advisor also suggested that, some people came to town, saw an opportunity, made a good deal to make some monies for themselves. But it was never about jobs or prosperity for the Bahamas with that project. That's a very serious allegation from a person who I will not name, but if you were listening yesterday, you would have picked up that voice. It's a very serious thing. There's been nothing from the government. They know who that voice was to say contrary. Now, there are people who are wondering, what is this government doing? What are we doing when it comes to foreign investors in this country? Shouldn't there be a particular kind of plan for what happens when we are dealing with foreign investors? Kelvin Cunningham, who is presently she is a arbitrator, international arbitrator. She is a qualified attorney and one who has sat as the registrar general in this country and one who sat as one of the counsel on the industrial tribunal, a very qualified person, made a serious observation about what ought to be happening when we are dealing as a government with investors now and in the future. And is there a policy along the lines as to what investors can do, are expected to do, and what we do to protect ourselves and the integrity of our country and our products of services and goods and tourism?
I spoke about a controller being in charge of these projects. To have Kayla's role sitting in the office of the prime minister is not sufficient. And then they say the investor comes, and the investor comes with their plan. Where is our plan? We need to be able to say to the investor, this is what will happen. This is what we expect from you. In addition to their business, you have got to put up some money here into the kitty as guarantee in the event that this project goes belly up, in the event that you've got to close and you leave here and you owe national insurance contributions. All of these things, none of the governments has ever put a plan in place. You
Even
need
though
a
we lost all
controller.
that in Grand Bahama with the hotels that just upped and left.
Driftwood,
Yeah.
all of them. And that's right. But what I'm saying is no government. I'm not talking politics. No government. The FNM government never did it. The PLP government never did it. It is high time, and I agree with Margot. We are intelligent people. Do not leave us out of what you are doing. You can be guided by things, suggestions from what we have to say. No one person have all the answers, and clearly none of the governments has done it properly in the past. So it's high time for it to be done.
It is. But is anybody listening? Is anybody home as we talk about the welfare of our country and the forward trajectory of our country? Is anybody listening? Because there are abundance of brilliant ideas from all across this country. Lawyers, doctors, Indians, chief, pressmen, floor sweepers, hoteliers, contractors. People have been making suggestions. And in the midst of all of this wisdom that God has given us to share with each other, you would think that somebody in the government would have the good sense of at least investigating some of these things and say, you know, maybe this is a good idea. But we seem to be doing things privately. And most importantly, we seem to be doing things in stealth. That's the troubling thing. Stealth. You know what is stealth? You know about it when it's right over you. We don't know what's going on. Do you really know what's going on? Isn't it your business to know what's going on? We can see the effects of things that went on that caused us to feel the pressure that we feel now, but we never know what's going on so that we can mitigate against it. We never know what's going on until it's done. We didn't know what's really going on until we felt signs that Bahama looked like it can't open. Nobody's telling us anything. The press did not even get to tour that building when Christie went to tour it. These are telltale signs of somebody not being transparent. Now that we're in this dilemma, we don't even know what's the inside looking like. No cameras allowed. Now, certainly, the contrast is Ingram in the 90s. People tease Ingram about trying to fit a hard hat on his head. That's the inside joke. But Ingram was there with hard hat in hand, walking around, looking at the buildings, at sun, and the cameras were there, and we saw. And we were all in awe. My goodness, this is going to be such an elaborate thing. So the people felt a part of Atlantis. This is a major difference. Don't count it small. The people never felt Bahama So there's no love and outpouring for it. They tried to do something late in the game by calling some blue wave thing or what they did on the fort, but that was away from the project. Please listen. What is there to hide? We were never high on making sure there was transparency. And that's what Cal Finney is talking about in that sound clip. Things happening and we don't know until we meet the fork in the road. Then we're all excited. And then you who are looking for jobs, not only now, but have left major resorts that were working well for you to go look for something more, the grass greener in the West. Now you are without a job. Or if you're not yet, you certainly surely would be very shortly. And you think that Ismailian or the contractors or anybody who's with concern to that project considers your plight? You think that they're concerned about priority? So what are we going to do? All we can do is back into our government to do something and to make suggestions. Do you think, friends, that we have spent $3 billion, $3.5 billion down there? When I say we, I'm talking about the country, because it's not our project. It is Ismailian and the Chinese people project in the Bahamas, which is our business. Do you think we've spent that? Do you think what you see standing up now is $3.5 billion? Because they didn't run out of money. There's a 7% of $3.5 billion that we talked about yesterday. We say today is about $300 million. And if Ismailian gets that $300 million, he may make some advancements. But Ismailian doesn't look as if he's talking too much about that. In fact, some newspapers and some insiders are suggesting that Ismailian is very happy and as happy as a seal and as fat as a seal and is not too particular. I hope that's not true. What are your thoughts, friends? Can you use hard copy today where they're all listening, every single one of them? Can you tell them what they're supposed to be doing? Can you endorse that they should go to Beijing? Do something. Because Christie may be in a state of flux and not so sure what to do, especially since Christie has just been to Beijing in January and came back with these elaborate ideas about airlift and energy supply and monies to pay off the national debt and borrowing monies from the Chinese at a small percentage to put against that, and all kinds of things that sounded, wow, made the Tribune and everybody else write editorials, but we better be careful of how we're getting in bed with the Chinese. And then there's been no talk about that since. Yes, the Chinese are liberal, they're kind and gentle, and they want to do things, and they're spreading their tentacles across the world, especially in the Western Hemisphere right now. And they would love to give more. Certainly they would. Have no difficulty with that. They've got trillions and trillions of dollars in their reserves to do so. Money's for investment only. You can't run out of money in China. The Chinese can't run out of money. The Chinese became the richest country in the world in December of 2014 by the status of the international quotas. They got more money and more money in reserve to do things than any other country in the world, including the great United States, who also, by the way, owes China trillions of dollars. So you can understand how powerful China is with money. And it's no big deal to them. They'll do it. Leslie's right. Fly to Beijing, project could be finished tomorrow. But what is holding the government back? Could it be geopolitics? Could it be that the Americans are watching things in such a way that the Bahamians are not so sure what they're supposed to do? So maybe they need advice. And I know that's a big gray area here because a lot of us don't know too much about the geopolitics from the G8 and how these guys operate and what they do. But keep in mind why this is important, because the World Trade Organization is also breathing down our necks for us to link up, as the young boys say, link up, lock and load, and forward. And once we do that, we're part of the big picture of everybody on board. Presently, we are the only country in this hemisphere who have not joined, but we are talking about it. See, all of these things changes the landscape of the country. This is serious business, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about costumes. We're talking about Cuban music. We're talking about Carnival. The Carnival will not be a savior, even if it grows $60 million, which is a kind of weird dream, really. Even if the weekend pass would have netted us $60 million to go toward the GDP. Listen, there are dreams of inspiration. There are dreams of what they call pipe dreams. And then there are dreams that are nightmares. Which category do you think we are now in? Let's get serious. This is serious business. No time for jive. Margot Blackwell, who's a resident host, an associate professor at the College of the Bahamas, has a lot of ideas of what we should be doing along the lines of international agreements that we ought to be keeping to make sure that we know what we are doing and we are on the cutting edge of a forward movement as a country. And she spoke to it recently. I share it with you now.
The international agreements that we've all signed, including the WTO, has a piece of this in there. There is a need, and you should know this from labor, and that's why we have tripartite, that there should be nothing moving forward without an agreement at a certain level. And when we talking about giving away our patrimony, then we have a right, and we must begin to demand that these negotiations happen in a way that they are not finalized until we are clear that that is going to be a safe and good thing for us to do.
Way to go, Margot. I'm on 100% on board with you. The trouble is, friends, we've been negotiating things that our leaders believe is too big for us to understand. And they don't apparently understand it themselves. We're negotiating at a level where you need real brain power, expertise. Don't let these guys fool you that some of them have never even run a petty shop. They have no concept of business or negotiations. But they are our government. We elected them, and they have appointed themselves into the cabinet. And predominantly, these are the guys who head up ministries of investments. And so if you headed up these ministries, fine. But you know what? They're experts who can help you in those areas. We got to get it right. That's what our problem is. See, what I've touched on today is the core caveats of our problems. No one has ever told us. We know. I'm putting it succinctly for you today to understand something. We got this thing on left and right, back and front, crisscross, cart before the horse. This is our problem, and it's serious business. We're not supposed to be doing some of the things that we are doing because we want to just be able to make a grand announcement that jobs are on the way, that jobs are on the way, that the future looks bright. Listen, all leaders want things to look bright for its citizens and its people. And I'm not against that. That is what leadership is. But you cannot, a farmer will tell you, if you see the moon is right to plant seeds, you just cannot stand there saying, boy, this year I can hunt me some good cabbages and some good tomatoes, and you ain't planting the seeds. And you have all the elements of what the moon, right, boy, the weather is good. It is nice now. It's, it's good time to plant. But you still end up going to the food store to buy these things that you can plant because all you were is talk. So any leader who's saying, it looks good, the conditions seem really great to do what we want to do, and the future looks bright. Yeah. Words without deeds is foolishness. If you don't put your shoulder to the wheel, you'll never yield any crop. So all this wonderful talk, great oratory skills, spotlight, you look good, you sound good, the people clap, they love you. That's my prime minister, they say. But it appears to be talk without any substance at the end of the day to yield fruit. We want fruit. We want results. And the Prime Minister said to me in January, in my interview with him, forecasting this year, that the future looks great. He talks about jobs, future opportunities for Bahamians. That was January. This is now May. 3 years into his administration. Let's remember what he said.
I happen to be the Minister for Investments, so to speak, as Prime Minister. Investments is in my portfolio. Therefore, we process investments. And what we're seeing, for example, is we know by the end of March, some 5,000 new persons will be employed by Bahama. That in itself will trigger
Not 5,000.
At least 5,000.
At least 5,000.
Okay, you know, Atlantis has about 8,000 people working. There's another hotel there now. So by the time they get going, you're talking about 5,000 new jobs. And people are being employed now there. So we know there's going to be a significant impact there. The Hilton Hotel for New Providence, the Hilton Hotel, for example, is going to go through a dynamic redevelopment, almost making it the gateway to the city of Nassau. Smaller hotels on that strip are now being redeveloped there. We expect the South Ocean to come in shortly with a new purchaser. Lyford Key has agreed now, and we've approved their development to expand at Lyford Key, a new office block, new cottages, new condominiums. Albany continues with their dynamic development, hiring hundreds of construction workers. So we know it's happening. Now, when we go to Bimini and we see the development in Bimini, we know, for example, 200 additional hotel rooms will come on stream in mid-January in Bimini, another 300 jobs in Bimini. So we're talking about 800 to 1,000 new jobs in Bimini as a result of the Genting development in Bimini. We go to Abaco. We now know that Winding Bay has joined Bakers Bay. Bakers Bay has $350 million worth of construction going on. It's a dynamic development. It's really expansion. Now we have a new purchaser who has come into Winding Bay. They're cleaning it up, brushing it off, and we expect dynamic impact. Schooner Bay, another development there going on. We're about to build a new harbor in North Abaco that we inherited from the Ingram government. So again, you can see with the that with plans possibly for the extension of the runway in Marsh Harbor, with the new terminal building, we have dynamic, fundamentally sound business opportunities developing and entrepreneurial opportunities.
Yes. Our Prime Minister, January of 2015. Now, you've heard what he said. Are we on schedule? There was an old guy who used to say this all the time. Talk is cheap. Money buy land. An old fella from Andros. Well, I can only give you what is happening. I deal in facts. That's on the record. By the end of March of 2015, he says in January, 5,000 people will be employed at Bahama. What's gone wrong? Now you can understand in context the desperation, the anxiety, the nervous anxiety, the crazy situation that we find ourselves in. I know that sobered you up. It's sobering time. And we can be happy with what is happening because, you know, we really need bread. We really need something to happen. This is 3 years. And I don't know how you feel, but I feel disappointed. Not because some things aren't on schedule or some things have been a total failure, but because we are still continuing to plan and to talk that talk with little action. You see why now Miller has suggested that Christie must fly to Beijing. Because we're way off the mark. This talk, and you see people, his critics are making sport of him. I don't know if he's aware of it. But Loretta Butler Turner, for instance, in a press release past weekend, while everybody is partying, Loretta Butler Turner said this. She says, the Prime Minister, she says, Bahamians are hurting and struggling to pay bills As costs continue to raise, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance continues to delude himself and is attempting to delude the Bahamian people. That's what Loretta Butler said. And she quotes him. She says, he previously stated, I stand before you today with enormous confidence in our nation's economic future. Things are looking good. We are on the move. I remember the soundbite. Do you feel on the move? Come now, this is not about politics. Please, this is about governance. You don't like Perry Christie more than me. This is not about PLP. This is about governance. But if it isn't, for some, it should be. Now, how wrong could one be as a chief executive? It's a very sobering question. How wrong can one be as the chief? The chief should know what is happening at all times. And the chief should be able to articulate what is happening at all times with full accountability and transparency. And guess what? Mr. Christie has no equal when it comes to clarity and articulation and diction and oratory skills. He has no equal. If that's what it takes to just be a prime minister, we've got the best prime minister in the entire world. But action speaks louder than words. You got to follow through. You got to follow up. You got to go where no man has gone before to protect your people in every aspect of governance. From crime to health to economic stability, you've got to go and make it happen. And if you don't have all the expertise, you've got to have enough good sense that God gave you to go find the expertise and not play games of friends, family, and lovers. Because at the end of the day, this small circle of friends cannot give you the legacy. The Bahamian people would judge that. So, this is where we are. I'm going to open the lines for you. But here's something that's quite interesting from another voice that has been crying in the wilderness for something to turn around. And a lot of things that is said may sound very, very heavy with some of the things that should not be happening. But in everything, there's good and bad. In everything, you've got to do what you have to do to get the positive result, including wailing backsides in governance, in church, in state, when they're off track.
That this government will not last, cannot last. They need a new mandate, because the mandate in which they were depending on was this Bahama. That's it. There's nothing that they've done. And we talked about the Ministry of Finance, and they were giving themselves raves, remarks about themselves implementing VAT on a very high unemployed country, getting the taxes from those who tend to be working right now. And they never took the time to sit down and say how they're going to stimulate this economy, how they're going to look at businesses, how they're going to try to get businesses to encourage businesses to hire people again. Never did it. No. But they only give themselves 5. And now they cannot last. They will not last. The Bahamian people needs a new mandate, and they will have a new mandate, because these people who are currently there seems not only impotent, but incompetent to produce the kinds of jobs or create the environment for the production of jobs that this country needs right now.
Do you agree with Paul Moss? Do you think that they're incapable, incompetent, unable to produce the jobs that they talk about? Call me. Call me and answer some questions today and get involved. This second hour is your chance to call, because we've got to help to right-side the government and put the government back on track. It is a good government as far as personalities are concerned. We've got talent there, but is it gelling? And in the midst of all of this, no shuffling, none. In the midst of all of this, nobody moved, nobody get hurt. Everybody is still in their positions as was done at the beginning of 2012 when they came into office on the 7th of May. What do we need to be doing now, friends? We know the problems. We see we ain't got no jobs. The prospects are not that bright. Let's be real. What do we do? How do we switch gears? How do we get on that track of making something happen? How do we do it? Is it in tourism? Is it in the environment? What do we do right now? Because we've got to do something. Failure is not an option. All of us are in this together. How do we help Christy and them to get on track? And I'm talking F&Ms too. This is your country. Do you want to inherit a country that's going down the hill to the status of failed state? What do we do? How do we call ourselves in service? Preachers, do you have a word? Don't leave me here alone. I don't know the answers. All I know is that I keep the record. I'm the fella on the wall with the record. You want to know what they said? I got it. I'll tell you what they said. But what does it mean? Are we governing? How do we get to govern? This is important. And it's not a good environment to govern right now, you know. The environment is very, very sour. There are members of the media and sections of the media who will kill this government just because they're a PLP government. That's a fact. But take that out of the equation. Let's look at the bare facts of the matter. We need jobs. We need ownership. We need a governance economy. We need greater investors. We need more partnership. We need great agreements. We need to take care of the unions. We need to quell the problems in the streets. As far as these unions spilling over, we've got to do something. What do we do? Or are we to be rendered useless? Can you advise the government today? Call me, 325-0235. Let them hear directly from their bosses. Positive stuff that's progressive. What do you have for me today? How do we fix this? Do you think that these guys need a new mandate? Do you think that something else has to happen to get them jumping into the right direction? What is it that has to happen? Do you think we've spent $3 billion? Should we call for an investigation? Should we call for an accounting? Shouldn't there be more to be said by Ismailian? Shouldn't he face the music to the Bahamian people? Shouldn't Christy and those have some way of making sure that what they're discussing privately, supposedly, can be brought in the open? Here are the numbers: 325-0235 or 6. 325-0242. 325-0253. Call us, text me, 376-9234. And friends, don't blame me if the news isn't good. Let me tell you something. While we are talking, and you heard Christine, that sound clip from January projecting things for the future, talk about the gateway of the Chinese on Bay Street to open a new gateway, let me tell you something else. The Indians are here. The Indians are controlling Bay Street. Quietly they came. They're running all the jewelry shops. Go check it out. That's to the disadvantage of many Bahamians, my white Bahamian brothers and sisters who have just as much stake as the black Bahamian brother and sister. They are too at a loss. The Indians are controlling. The Mexicans are controlling. Are we becoming another international bazaar to the point and to the disadvantage of the Bahamian? Don't go on Market Street North. The Haitians are controlling. And they have lots of fights every day. Ask the police. Steve is never going to tell you foolishness. Don't mind the propaganda. I give you facts. And I stand by them, and I can prove it. Every single thing I tell you, every day. I am concerned. Are you? You call me. Let us see if we can help Christy and everybody else to get on page, because it's our country. We mustn't let anybody wreck this because of poor ideas and foolish thinking and pride. Let us get moving. How do we rebound today? Are you sober enough to give me a good contribution today? I don't mean from liquor. I'm talking about sober in your mind, your thinking. Are you on page? Do you understand where we are? Because this ain't no time for people who want to revel. This ain't no time for Fantasy 5 numbers like $60 million that we made on the weekend. Let's get serious. Not fantasy, reality. Let's go to the calls. Hard copy, how are you?
Hi, Mr. McKinney.
Peace and love.
Yesterday, did I hear you? Okay, Bahama is a variety of hotels. Did I hear you say that yesterday?
Yes, Bahama would be a variety of hotels in the end of the whole coming together. Yes.
Okay, like how yesterday you made a comment in regard to how Mr. Ingram did with Atlantis. Okay, they did it in phases.
Yes, they did.
Okay, what's wrong with just listen? Not scrap, but opening what the two of the hotels now, the main one, and maybe the next very one, opening those now. Okay, do that for a while until you and then in phases.
Yeah.
Completing the rest, because listen, Mr. Miller said, well, I know Mr. Ismail, we owe him for some monies he invested in that hotel, don't we?
No, we don't owe him a dime.
We don't have a dime.
No.
Oh, okay. But anyway, the government, so in other words, the government still he's looking for the government to come up with a certain amount of money then to complete the thing. That's what is happening?
No, there's a road work that happened, the roads that we built. The gateway from the airport to Bahama. We had gone in an investment of $60 million. And there's supposed to be something that we pay and that they pay. And together we would have, gone double Dutch, if you will, to bring the roads together. So there's a dispute about that. And Brave Davis can tell us more about that. But there's nothing much being said except that we know that it's in dispute.
But
about
it's
who
money
pays.
that is that is the reason why the thing isn't opening now, isn't it? Because
They lack funds. They need to finish the building. They need to finish the building. They need to finish what they're doing.
Open it up in phases. Forget about. I think you mentioned 6 yesterday. 6 hotels.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What about it?
Okay. Right. Forget about the 4. Not forget, but let the other 4 lay for a while. But that first that first big one in front door, the elaborate one.
Yeah, I
and
see
then
where you're going.
maybe another one. Open that for now.
Okay, I appreciate your call. I see where you're going. It is not for us to decide. It is not for us to say, as Johnny Mathis sings. It's not for me to say. It is not for Ismailian to say. This is a group of hotels in a project that was negotiated and sanctioned by the governor of the Bahamas to allow for a project to go one time. Every civilized society with common sense and logics know that when you're dealing with a $3.5 billion mega project like this, you ought to do phases. Under no circumstances should we allow them to say, well, okay, if you all say y'all can do it. That's negligence by the government. Because when we get stuck with it, the monstrosity, the eyesore is in your neck of the woods. Yes, no one would have forecasted this because really we're saying, boy, the Chinese got money. Yeah, but the Chinese also got prudence and responsibility. That's how they got money, from not being slack, which is a word that's in our vernacular. We love that word slack. We behave that way every day. That's in our thinking. You don't leave things like this to chance. Otherwise, we end up with what we have now. So this thing about what the lady is saying, I appreciate it. But see, that's that thinking. I don't want to call it, I better leave that. I don't want to call it let me say it this way. That's like backyard thinking. You just get this house, right? First phase, the big part, you live in that part. Then while you're living in that part, you're building the back part, and you will suffer the consequences of the dust from the construction coming in the other part of the house and so forth and so on. And you make do till you pack along. That's a Bahamian way of thinking. In fact, that's a Caribbean way of thinking. Adding on and fixing up and this. Yeah. But when you have a project that is funded with the monies and you say that you will turn it over within the period of time, you've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. It cannot be a pipe dream. And I'm reminded of a story that happened, I'll tell you in a short time. If I don't forget, let me make a note of it right now. It was a project called the Moon Project. And the Moon Project almost happened in the Bahamas because of how we are so gullible. I wonder if you remember that. I know colleagues in the Tribune would remember the Moon Project, and people who are serious about journalism who've been around, they would remember the Moon Project. The Moon Project almost happened in the Bahamas. I will tell you how serious it is to believe in people with all these weird ideas. Talk is cheap, man. Money buys land. There's no way that you could convince me that we could allow a project like this to go one time without phases. Who had more money than the South Africans? Anyway. Hard copy, how are you? Hi there.
Hello?
Peace and love. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, please speak.
Okay, yeah, man. To God be the glory, Stephen. Yes, the answer for the government right now, Steve, is to turn to God, the one true living God, for the answers.
I appreciate it.
Yes, we are in some confusions with China and India and different countries of the world, but we must be careful. We must be very careful who we're dealing with. China does not believe in God. India have over 5,000 different gods.
I got your perspective. I appreciate it. Stephen Surratt, can I say this? I love you, but I want you to understand something. We have to be on the same page when we are discussing some things. You know I love God. You know that, right? I know you love God. I want you to get something here. Works, faith without works is dead. We know that we love God. We know that we ought to pray to him. That's a given. What we need here is a solution for these guys who, in fact, seem to be adrift in their mentality. And that's what I'm asking you for today. What are the solutions that you may have that can get the country back on track with a kind of thinking that's sober, that's serious, that's dedicated to turning things around? Can we deal with that? 325-023546. Hard copy, how are you? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to the Bahamas. You said something a little while ago, but we must help the government out. You hear me?
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, of course, the radio show is your own and some other shows, some good ideas and some good solutions has come out. But are they listening?
Well, that's a consideration. Are they listening?
I don't think they listening. It's like they is the boss and we the workers. But they need to understand we are the boss. They are the workers.
Okay, so if you're the boss, and I agree with you, what say you now of our dilemma? Do we go to Beijing? Should the prime minister take a contingent to Beijing, talk to the government of China to help fix the problem in the Bahamas that we now are facing and that could cause hardship for the economy of the Bahamas?
That's a good idea, because if that a gigantic building or there does not come to pass or come into the future, be stuck with that. And that's a waste. So I most believe it's a good idea for him to step overseas and say something.
You won't criticize him if he does that.
No, I won't criticize him. I think it'll be a good idea.
Do you have any other alternative that he may be able to do?
And any other alternative right now is just listen to the people.
Okay, I appreciate your call. Hard copy, how are you?
The alternative, Mr. McKinney, is patience.
Patience?
Yes.
You sure it's not Junkanoo Carnival?
No. And I appreciate you being very kind to Mr. Surratt.
Yeah, I have to be kind to him sometimes.
I'm very worried about him. Very worried. And I'm still waiting for that rain that he prayed for.
Well, leave him alone.
I have a question for your guest today. He obviously doesn't have confidence in government of the day, and he wants a new mandate. Ask him to please tell me, since he knows who he doesn't want, ask him to tell me who is his alternative. Thank you.
I appreciate your call. He's referring to a soundbite. Paul is not here as a guest, but I'm sure Paul is listening. He'll call in. That gentleman is referring to a soundbite that we played from Paul Moss that came from the Sunday shows. We discussed these things. These are deep thinking things that we have to talk about. And they're ugly. They're not pretty. They sound negative. But it's for the betterment of the country. You just can't build the country by talking all this gibberish about all the sweetness and don't look at the reality of things. And so Paul believes that, there may be a need for a new mandate. Well, maybe that gentleman doesn't believe that that's the way to go forward. What say you? Do we need a new mandate in the country? Do we need to do some shuffling around? Do we need to make some adjustments? Let us be realistic now. All governments make adjustments, not a crime. It doesn't mean you've failed. But if people aren't performing to peak, optimum, and I have not even been cruel to as mention all these scandals and stuff, or the perception of scandals that has really broadsided the government and has taken them off track. They're so concerned about what the Guardian says every day, what the Tribune says every day about them. And it's unfair, but you know what? Roll with the punches. That's what you've got broad shoulders for. If the truth is on your side, speak it loud and speak it clear. Nobody's going to fault you for defending yourself. But then don't do fool. Don't do fool and expect people to support it. Don't do foolishness. So do we need a new mandate? Hard copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kinney.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Everything is good. Everything good there with you as well, sir?
Well, I'm trying to make it work. I'm looking at the issues and the problems of the country. How we're going to get Bahama to finish.
I think what you said in the beginning, I think the government really need a new mandate, to be honest with you. If you look at that hotel, Mr. McKinney, no Bahamians basically helped build that. I mean, you have Bahamians, but the majority was Chinese. So, and you can't really blame us Bahamians.
No, this is not about a blame game. It's not about a blame game. You're correct in that Bahamians did, in fact, participate. We were the ones who did the initial building of the police station, the rebuilding of it, and the fire station down there, and the banks and so forth and all that. And so we did make some monies in the initial process before the real construction began. We had to move the buildings out of the way to make space for them to do what they wanted to do. And yes, the Chinese did come. And yes, no one can seriously tell me that we have spent $3.5 billion completely on this project, when in fact there are a couple of considerations. The building looks like it's made out of paper mache. The building doesn't look as strong as Atlantis building. You all see that. And not only that, the labor, see, the most important part of any construction is labor cost. Labor is the most important part and the most expensive part. But we got these Chinese laborers from all over the place in the state of China who came here, who were supposedly, in some cases, prisoners, wards of the state, people who are really of little regard, and who were not being paid a pretty penny. So it could not be that the labor cost was as much. So what did we spend it on? And how come we can't pay the big construction company that's pushing this thing? See, these are real questions that we got to ask our government. And they ought to know, and they should not be secretive about it.
Mr. Kinney, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually work at Bahama. The only reason I'm not there at the present because, they closed down at this point.
Yeah.
And Mr. McKinney, hello?
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
Mr. McKinney, I can be honest with you. Bahama, you got roofs leaking. You have plenty things that would need more bit touching up. We don't know if that building stable enough or however. Mr. McKinney, I don't know. I think with the PLC we need to do, they really need to use their mandate. They have to really believe in Bahamians. You can't say you believe in Bahamians and you don't believe in domestic trade. You believe in foreign trade. These guys don't believe in domestic trade. They don't believe in building the country. If you look at all great nations like America, Australia, I can go on, even in Europe. You have many countries that depend on their natural resources. We don't. I think that any country natural resources could be a hotel where people come into it. I don't believe that. I think that we don't believe in domestic trade. We do not believe. We believe in foreign trade. We believe that.
Let me ask you a question. I hear where you're going, but let me ask you this question quickly because there are lots of calls on the line. What kind of work did you do? Were you a construction worker? Were you a drywall fixer? What kind of work you did?
Mr. Kinney, I used to work in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. You were one of the persons who worked in the kitchen.
That's right.
Of the hotel.
If we were open, I would have been right there making the money. But, like I told you, they're not opening now because of the construction issue. And on top of that, they have roofs leaking.
No, I know of that. I did not want to talk about that. But the point is, I just wanted to find out which area you were involved with. So you and a dray load of other people gone home then?
Yes, sir.
I see. Well, I'm going to pray for you and hope that things will work out so you can get back to work. Does it mean that you have no other job?
Well, no. I mean, Mr. Kinney, I learned to be a success, you have to be able to do anything, or be able
There
to
you
try
go.
anything.
There you go.
I do my little landscaping and other things like that, but until then, I'll stay firm and try to do my best.
Well, do your best. You develop that landscaping company. When you make that into a big company and you need to get some big jobs, you let me know, because that's what you have to do. You got to go and now remake yourself, eh?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Very good. Thank you for your call. That's a worker who said he worked that there, but he's doing his own thing. Hard copy, how are you? Good afternoon. All right. Stay on the line if you will, please. Hard copy, how are you? Are you there? Okay. Hard copy, how are you? Hard copy, how are you?
Hello, Steve. How you doing, man?
Very good, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, just turn your radio off and talk to me.
Yes.
Yeah, just listen to me on the telephone. You can hear me right on the telephone. How you doing?
Hello, Steve.
Yes, sir. I'm listening.
Yeah, did you watch the parliamentary station today?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, well, my thing is, man, when I look at it, I thought the carnival already left, all right? But, man, look like we still got a circus here, man.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I understand you very clearly. Hard copy, how are you?
Hey, Steve McKinney.
Yes, sir.
I want to give it to you with Obama, right? But let me give you your comment or your thanks, because you are the reasonable, sensible man, Like, you objected to the carnival, right? But you wanted to not to fail.
No, you can't have it fail.
Yeah.
Because it's a part of
what their job, because they was trying to stop it. KB could have mixed with this man Montana and went on tour with him. A lot of people lost opportunities, but you objected to it, but you don't wish it to fail. But because I said to him, and this too shall pass.
Yes, it shall.
And this too shall, the carnival came and it passed. But people lost opportunities, lost their job. When I live with Obama now, you see this thing about the tourism website being hacked. We have an immediate cabinet meeting. Obama. I said maybe ISIS must have their website.
ISIS?
Must be. Hold a cabinet meeting because tourism website get hacked.
I see.
Really, this is a dire. But Steve, if Merlin took the blueprints to China, and the Chinese look at the plan, and then the Chinese forward, right? The Chinese give them an estimate how much it's gonna cost to build. Chinese hired their workers. Chinese said they're gonna build it. So where's the fault? Who's at fault?
Well, I don't know who's at fault, because we got to remember something here. This is a private venture that the Bahamas was depending upon because of our vested interest. This is not our project.
No, nothing to do with us, but we give as Merlin too much crown land, I guess.
Well, he got a lot of things, and as I understand it, he got the hotels that are out there for about $25 million, which according to the blueprints, at this juncture, those hotels were supposed to have already been knocked down, but somehow those hotels are continuing to stand strong, stand firm, and I suppose that's how Ismailian still has a stake.
But then, listen,
that they will not get rid of those hotels, which goes totally against what the plans were.
Sheldon Adelman, who owned the Venetian, he worth like $20 billion, but he built the Venetian in phases.
Yeah, well, everybody who's smart does
Out
that.
of it two, now it's worth like $4 or $6 billion. He built it in phases. But what made this Merlin man? Because I don't think he got I don't think he worth $1 billion. Allegedly, he don't worth that much, but he had so much of that beachfront property that the Chinese. But when you build a company like that, you must have engineers. When the roadway was being done, the IMF had McDonald do the engineering work, check everything, join the Ministry of Works and your engineering company. Who was the engineer for Bama that go behind the Chinese?
Well, listen, I hear what you're saying, and some things that I'm not prepared to talk about from what I know on this matter yet, because I believe that there's hope in getting this thing resolved. I don't believe that the whole thing should be allowed to fail because right now we see failure. Sometimes we see things and it's a blessing in disguise. And that's no spin and no spin intended. But sometimes things happen for us to catch ourselves. There's always a way for us to catch ourselves. We just gotta get a little deeper and see what it means. Here we are. People are going home. Christy is amazed and anxious right now about this whole project. I'm sure he's getting on the bicycle quickly to try to get some other things done. Perhaps talking with the Genting Group, who he spoke about in that sound clip earlier from January, and who he's close to as a Minister of Finance, trying to make things happen for the country. And they have some monies on reserve that they ain't doing nothing with. And they may, in fact, be able to put some money in this project. But what we do know, never mind all these fellas who tell you that don't mind this, it's going to be wake out. Yes, that's talk. Show me how it's going to work out. What are we working forward to make sure it works out? That's why I'm asking you today, friends. Can I have some new people who normally sit back, listen, and don't call? Can you call me? You got an idea how this can work out. You are very, very, very familiar with what the problems are. Can you call me? 325-0235 or 6. 325-0242 or 43. Or 325-0252 or 53. Because it's our country. And this is the biggest involvement that you really get when you talk on talk radio. That's your only democracy within the 5-year period of elections. Your only democracy is to talk and to advise and to convince and to agitate over the airwaves that we have the freedom of having these days. So don't balk at it. Don't sit back and relax. The country needs your help. You got the Indians on Bay Street. That's to the cringe of so much people are upset about it. We're losing who we are. The Chinese, as you heard Christy say, will be the new gateway to the Bahamas on the waterfront. A lot of people are concerned about that. A lot of Bahamian business persons are concerned about that. We're transforming a place that's supposed to be uniquely Bahamian with a European flair from our British roots to a place that's from the Far East in the Caribbean. Now, I have no difficulty if these things are going to happen, and they're going to happen in such a way that we, the people, are going to prosper, and the architecture is going to remain as it is now or only improve to showcase, illuminate our heritage from Africa and from Europe. Because that's who we are. I don't even like the way that the hotel out west is built. It looks Chinese. Hard copy, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. McKinney.
Yes, sir.
When was the first heads of agreement signed for Bahama?
Some time ago in the Free National Movement.
Was it 2005 or the first 2000?
Sorry, I'm wrong. In the first Christie government, there were plans of it, and they already had some things done with the Harris Group, the casino group that was going to be giving the money. And then something happened, and the Harris Group took off and left town, and they weren't interested. And then when Ingram came and had to deal with it, he did some restructuring of what the agreements looked like. And then, of course, he kept the mainframe of it, but some things would change as far as the land and the areas where the government had owned the buildings, like the Scotiabank building, with the Cecil Wallace Whitfield building, where Scotiabank was. They did some changes. And so, yes, the heads of agreement then became a new kind of adjusted heads of agreement under the Ingram administration, adopted by the Christie administration, because it was a combination of two different elements of government's negotiators, two different governments.
So the top 10, because it started in 2005, and now it's 2015, it may take the next 5 years to open up.
Well, that's not an option. That's failure. And something else that's interesting, as Leslie Miller said yesterday to us, a building sitting down for more than a year, unoccupied, is a building doomed. You don't believe me? You remember the Ministry of Education building where the Bank of the Bahamas is on Thompson Boulevard? You remember the kind of mold infestation, the kind of problems we had with that for a couple of years good before anything happened? You remember those things? Well, that's because it stayed too long. It stayed too long. And we don't have that. We don't need that. We think that what Miller has suggested is a good idea. We think so. And maybe they'll listen and, take off. But I'm asking you today, what do you think? Do you think that that's a good idea for it to happen? Because we seem to be in perilous times here on this particular project. Hard copy, how are you? Hard copy, how are you?
Good evening, Mr. McKinney.
Hi there.
Yeah, how you doing? This is reconciling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. McKinney, I believe that this is a national problem here, and that all parties should come together, the government and the opposition and all Bahamians, to resolve this matter. You think that's a good idea, Mr. McKinney?
Of course.
Okay.
This is
So,
not a PLP
seeing that
problem.
What has happened has happened. Now, I believe that there are solutions. But before we get to solutions, let's look into one or two things. We need better negotiators from the government point of view. When they negotiate these heads of agreement, that there should be partnerships involved with Bahamians, and the Bahamian contractors should be more involved in the mainstream of the building. Now, I understand, remember I said some months ago that the work that the Chinese do is shoddy workmanship?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what is showing up now. I understand that, it's just bad workmanship. When I see that building there, it reminds me of cork, like some big mountains of cork.
Cork,
That's
yeah.
full of cork.
Cork.
That's the way it looked to me.
Styrofoam.
The styrofoam. It has no character. All right? So we need to come together as a nation, the government, the opposition, the DNA, put away the criticism, and we know mistakes is being made. That's a fact. Now, what are the solutions?
All right. I hear you. I appreciate your call. Lots of calls on the line today. They tell me that Leslie Miller's on line too, is what my producer said. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
But the critics and the naysayers, on something as important as this in Bahama, I got to step down on this one.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize the severity that this country is facing if this project does not open soon.
No, I don't think that many people realize that.
It's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So you can criticize as much as they can say, what happened? Where did the money go? Face where we are now.
Yep.
You cannot let the project sit and remain dormant.
Yes.
After 6 months, you're going to spend another $100 million just for the remedies.
Yeah.
The government this morning, and Mr. Davis said that BEC is looking at borrowing, or the government's going to borrow $750 million for BEC.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that if that was to happen, that the government take $300 million of that $750 million, put it into Bahama, get it with 15 to 20% equity in Bahama, and see that it succeeds.
Oh, I like that.
BEC, we were getting funding from the Danish Import-Export Bank for 85% of the projects at BEC.
Yeah, for the $750 million.
Out of the 750, we were getting 85% of the financing from the Danish Import-Export Bank at 4% interest rate.
Right.
For 15 years. We then went to NIB, and we were getting NIB to guarantee the loan for us.
Mm-hmm.
Without the government, without the sovereign guarantee.
Mm.
Okay, and we were going to give an NIB $1 million a year for that guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
The government could still use that pathway to take care of BEC and serve Bahama at the same time.
I got you.
Let the people have equity in this project. I'm telling you, people need to appreciate what we are facing with the severity of this project if it fails.
Yeah.
Do not take this lightly. I'm begging these women. Do not take this lightly. This is no time to criticize and point fingers.
Yeah.
This is a time to find an answer and find an answer now. Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate your call. Yeah, so he is now redoubling his efforts for you, the Bahamian people, to understand. I don't know if most of you listened in yesterday, but there was some serious stuff that was said that makes us look at this thing and talk about serious business. This ain't no time to play. It's absolutely correct. There's some who are going around saying, don't mind this one, don't mind that one. This project, if it fails, can have lasting impact upon the Bahamas, even on the dollar value. This is how serious it is. And why did it get serious? Because, as I said, the government looked forward to and placed their hopes and eggs in one basket on this mega project. This was supposed to be the creme de la creme to take us to the other decade. Understand what we are dealing with. So if Leslie is saying that there was this proposal that has already been approved for 85% financing from another bank that they can get for $750 million to do the upgrades to BEC, if that's still in the pipeline for the governor of the Bahamas, then he's suggesting that maybe, since these guys need about $300 million to continue and finish off this project, that maybe if the government borrow that, they can put $300 million into this project, get a 20% stake in the Bahama project, and have this project finished. That's an option, because we are asking now what could be our options. One option is to go back to China and see if you can talk with the leaders and say, we need this money, help us out of this jam. And I believe that will have strings attached to it. I don't believe the Chinese will say, okay, go ahead, because you're all kingdoms. I believe they'll say, yeah, but we're interested in fishing. Or can we get this land deal? I believe that they'll do that. They're great negotiators. They're serious people. This ain't no joking thing. There's no free lunch. They're gifts that we like to receive, but there's no free lunch. So maybe that's a good idea, $300 million. And remember now, the value of the project for completion, the kinds of monies that are being estimated by those who are involved in this Bahama project has been around $300 million, because that's the percentage of the 7% of the $3.5 billion that is supposed to be a part of the contingency plan if they run into trouble. But apparently they're not getting that. What's going on? Okay. So that is where we are. All right. I have to run to a break, so you have to forgive me. I've got to pay these bills because I didn't take the break where I was supposed to. So hold the lines. We'll be back in a minute. This is Hard Copy. We're on the project today of Bahama. Not only that, the serious problems that we have. We've got joblessness. We've got high unemployment. We've got a whole cadre of young Bahamians coming out of school next month, early next month, like around the 6th, the 7th, the 10th, the 26th of the month of June. School's out. Graduation time. Are we ready? This is Hard Copy.
This year, don't be caught singing the Christmas blues. Start saving now with your own B.O.B. Christmas Club account. Sign up before June 30th with just $20. Earn high interest and have guaranteed spending money in time for Christmas. Don't be left in a bind this year. Let B.O.B.'s Christmas Club account work for you. Sign up today at your nearest B.O.B. branch. B.O.B., your bank of solutions.
The Bahamas experienced record heat in April. Well, it's staying hot in May at Super Value and Quality Supermarkets with sizzling savings like Carno Cream, the large can, 99 cents. Ocean Spray Cranberry Juice, 60-ounce can, $4.99. Vitamol Tonic, the can or bottle, the 12-ounce size, 99 cents. Value Time Foam Plate, the 40 count, $1.69. Chicken leg quarters, the 10-pound bag, 89 cents per pound. All that and more at Super Value and Quality Supermarkets, your Bahamian supermarkets.
The best insurance in town is Advantage Insurance on Collins Avenue. They are simply the best because they provide easy, affordable insurance rates for home, car, business, or whatever is valuable or important to you. Advantage Insurance and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue, is the fastest, most progressive insurance company in the Bahamas because they really take care of you by making insurance totally affordable. Call them now at 356-0285 or 6, or email them at info@advantagebahamas.com.
Lend me $10, please.
When I can get it back?
Directly. I just need some gas to get back to Superwash.
Which one?
All. I drop clothes off at all, and
You drop some clothes to the 10 different Superwash? Why?
I want to see if the end of 2 laps, all my clothes would be finished. Okay? I started at Prince Charles, then I dropped some clothes to Charles Sanders, and from there I go on to Carmichael, then I go on to Blue Hill, and from there to Robinson Road.
Okay, I got your drift, but why?
I had nothing to do like that. And Junior Truck had gas. So I say to myself, I wonder if I put one load in Prince Charles, then go to each of the other Superwash, put one load in, go back to Prince Charles, put the clothes in the dryer, then make one lap again, this time in the dryer, you know? I wonder how long that was contained.
So how long did that take?
All day in a tank of gas.
Any other experiments in the work?
Well, not like that, but I do need to figure out how much water I could mix with that $10 gas to bring that tank back to half.
Superwash, 10 locations, but you only have to use one at a time.
Executive Printers. We're professionals. At Executive Printers, we do not participate in trash talk. We concern ourselves with the accuracy and security of your laser check. That is why we put 15, yes, 15 securities on your laser checks. This is not trash. This is fact. It makes fraud almost impossible. Call us today at Executive Printers at 393-5011 or email us at sales@epbahamas.com. That's sales@epbahamas.com. Executive Printers. Laser checks. We do them right.
At Henry F. Store Electric Company, we supply all your electrical needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Store Electric, number 135 Matthew Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
When Steve talks, people listen. People listen. People listen.
Welcome back. This is Hard Copy. There was a time that we had Miles Monroe on the program, the late, great Miles Monroe. He talked about the fact that sometimes language is very important in what we're doing. We're talking about Bahama today, and we're missing some elements that we don't want to really talk about and haven't really discussed. And that's not deliberate. It's just that people don't see a lot of things that we see. One of the things that we see and saw a long time, thanks to Dr. Elwood Donaldson, who first raised this issue many, many years ago when the talk first happened with the Chinese. He says, what about the socialization? What about the social standing of a country? Do you realize the impact of these people coming here with different cultures and different lifestyles to be a part of a Bahamian culture with the kind of cross-section of people that we have who are interested in all kinds of things? What about the intermingling, the intermarriages? He talked about all that. Now, of course, a lot of that didn't happen, but some of it did. And even in the construction of a big facility like this $3.5 billion facility that they were building, sometimes language is key in these kinds of things, because as we're being told, and we have the notes about where the faults are with the Bahama project, and I don't want to tell you all about that because I think it would be an injustice, but they do have faults. They do have some serious construction things to consider going forward with Bahama. There are some serious structural problems with parts of the building that needs to be corrected, that cannot open in the present condition. We know that. You heard a young man refer to something earlier that that's a part of it. But there are many others, a myriad of problems that I'm not going to get into today. Okay? Now, could this have been from a difference in language? Remember now, there are some Bahamians who had to come in to do some things. There were some Americans who had to come and do some things, mixed with the Chinese who were doing some things. And a lot of things would put on back and front because really, you know, the Chinese speak one language. And these are different people from different parts of China. This is not one from one part of China where they speak Mandarin, what's the other one? Polynesian, or all kinds of things. Could it be that a language deficit on the site has caused the problems that we now have with the structure and the construction? That's something to consider. But Miles Monroe said something one time, was talking about some other matters about nation building and how language is important, how we have that one language of building a nation. And I think in this soundbite, if I'm not mistaken, he said something about the Tower of Babel. Because of the different languages, it never finished. And that's what's in my head today. Let me let you hear the soundbite.
A nation is made of one language. This is very key. You cannot have 3 or 4 languages in a country. And that's very important because language is to a country like blood is to a body. It is the very essence of communication of the people. You cannot have people having different understandings and different definitions of words. So language, got to have one language for a nation to be unified. You know, when I hear people talking about, our kids being required to learn a second language because of the amount of people in our country who speak it, we are about to destroy our country. Now, I can learn a language for the sake of commerce, business, expansion of our national vision, for example, tourism. I can learn Chinese or Japanese or French because we have French citizens. But I'm not going to learn it because we get a group of French people here or Japanese people here who require that they maintain their language. Therefore, I got to learn their language to communicate with them. This is the destruction of a country. So when we talk about language, there's only one language makes up a country. You would remember, for example, that this language powerful thing is very critical. A black man created the first country in the Bible. His name was Nimrod. He's the first one to establish a city. So when you talk about black history, we begin as the first people to establish a country. This is documented in Genesis chapter 11, done by a black man who was called the Great Hunter. His name was Nimrod. And he built what they call a citadel, which we get our word city from. He brought everyone together in a central place. And he gave them, what you'll see on this list, he gave them one land, he gave them a national vision to build a tower. But this time, their ideology was a problem. They wanted to build unto themselves, forget about God who created them. So God made a determination that, these people are so powerful because, and he said to them, he says, if they agree on the same thing and they agree to do the same thing and they are unified, he said, nothing shall be impossible to them. In other words, when a country gets unified, they become dangerous even to God. And God decided to stop the project. How did God stop that project? He didn't send soldiers to attack them. He didn't send an army to attack them. He didn't send angels to attack them. The Bible simply said he confused their language.
My mind.
And the project stopped. The fastest way to destroy a country is to give it multiple languages because now the people don't understand each other. And when you start feeding the duplication of languages or the diversity of language in a country, you are basically eroding the very foundation of the unity of the country, and you are causing the projects to stop. You're shutting down the
projects
economy.
to stop.
That project
Shutting
stopped.
down
And the
the
scriptures
economy.
actually says that the Tower of Babel could not be built because the people could not understand each other. So God destroyed the country not by an army, but by confusing their languages. And when you start dabbling with triple languages and double languages, you are destroying a country. So this is very important for us to protect against. And I become concerned even when I hear people say, well, it's important for our kids to learn 2 languages. No, it isn't. It's important for anyone who comes to our country to learn our one language.
Our language.
Because that's the key to unity. And history has proven that any country that allows the inculcation of a separate culture and language will constantly become a victim of destruction.
Boy, Miles Monroe was a powerful man, You heard that just now? If you put them in the context of languages could be a problem of things being stopped, projects not being finished. You understand? My goodness. 325-023546. We're talking about this project. We're talking about something as wide. From the next side, Monroe speaks truth to power. From the next side. Nuggets he left with us that we should remember, because these are part of what leadership is, to make sure we get it right. That may seem simple to some, but give it some thought. The Chinese started building something here. Some Americans came and say, boy, this is incorrect. Some Bahamians came and said, they ain't know what they doing. My goodness, look at this. They put this here, they put that there, and they ain't on the same page with language. Is that why we have a problem? Hello? Do you understand me? Are we speaking the same language? Hard copy, how are you? Hard copy, how are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Brother McKinney.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, this is Egypt here. When you're talking about the resorts that are being allowed on heads of agreement in this country to come into the country, when we speak about investment or development, I think it means to expose. Who are we exposing to? And where is the partnership between the people of this country and the resource that comes here? This is a serious, serious problem. We come right now, the first, second, and third estate have failed the people. At this time, I'm come seeking the fourth estate relative to the people, and even Atlantis now is being undermined. With all the thousands of people are being let go and leave in abeyance at Bama, all those people who, in their future, they stopped the future they had in order to jump onto this Bama thing. And what happens at this point? Everybody's in limbo. Now we have another crisis going on at the Cabbage Beach situation over there. They're now undermining the Cabbage Beach vendors relative to bringing in other people on the beach in order to undermine the people who've been there for the last 20 years. They have license to be on there. And what is happening, because they don't comply with Atlantis and their permit, and they have these matters before the courts. Now the Ministry of Tourism is working along with Atlantis in order to undermine the vendors. They got a vendors beach license in order for the Vendors Association to have a booth over there in order to operate and sell things in order for the association to have monies. Now, they have locked up a guy, one of the vendors, to this afternoon on Paradise Island for no other reason than being employed by the Vendors Association, which is legitimate. They went to the tribunal and they were granted a association for their association to come together. Now that has happened, ASEAN Cooper, along with some of the people out there, they're undermining one or two people out there.
I appreciate it. Okay, I hear what you're saying. That's not where I'm going. I'm trying to follow you. I see you coaxing or coding what you're saying with the Bahama Project to get your word in. If you want to talk about that, please do call me when we're talking about the open line on matters. I am aware of what you're talking about. I don't support what is happening there, but for everything, there's a time and place. And today, what I'm doing is asking you a simple question. No wonder why the government treats us the way that we are treated, because we are being inundated by people who got their own damn agendas. And it makes me mad. Do you know what we're talking about is very serious? And yet, I got people calling me, talking all kinds of other things because of their own agendas. Can we just somehow get it together, people? This is why governments don't listen to the Bahamian people. You're distracted. The question of the day is simple. What do we do to get the government on page about a project that could cause this country to go in another direction down the road of failed state? Now, you don't have all the details, but you've got to trust certain people in the fourth estate. I consider myself one of them. You've got to hear what the government is not saying. You've got to see the monstrosity out west that is at a stall. And you've got to understand that so many things in our economy is depending upon that being successful. Leslie said it yesterday. He called into the show today to keep you on base and to keep you thinking, to make ideas and offers of suggestions and solutions as to what we ought to be doing. And I've got people cleverly calling in to coax it or to coach it or to, what's the word I want to use, to couch what they're saying about some other thing. Atlantis has some problems, yes. The vendors got some problems, yes. And the reason why they've got problems, and I'm saying this, is because of lack of unity and organization. There are ways to deal with things. The Ministry of Tourism cannot be undermining Bahamians on the beach. Foolishness. They can be. And they aren't. The question is, what do we do with this project out west? Because whether you like it or not, Atlantis still employs the second largest number of people in this country. They ain't laid them off yet. They may lay off, but they still employ them. And we're thankful as a country for that. Could you imagine about 6,000 being laid off from Atlantis? This is hypothetical. This is not fact. Could you imagine that happening with what we now have? Friends, let us stay focused. Let us stay focused. The focus that we have to stay on is what the problems are that we need to try to correct. Now, what ideas do you have? Should Mr. Christie come up with a new mandate? These are the things that I put on the table today. Should they take a contingent to Beijing and try to bail us out of this mess that we're in? Because they need the money. And Israel ain't got no money. And people are going home. That's the reality. And that project can't afford to fail because that will rock our reality. You don't believe me? Let it fail. Can I get people to focus on that for a second? Hard copy, how are you? Hi there. Hard copy, how are you?
Fine. How you doing, sir?
Very good, thanks.
All right. Good afternoon to yourself and good afternoon to the nation.
I appreciate
Just
it.
listening. I listened a little bit yesterday to the Honorable Leslie Miller. Listened to his phone call again today, and I agree with him. I think, Steve, that this is an opportunity for the Bahamas government to regain a good degree of ownership in the land buyback through possible partnership buy-in. It's also an opportunity for the government to guarantee the sustainable success of this venture for the benefit of generations of Bahamians. It's further an opportunity for the government of the Bahamas to perhaps open our financial sector and invite the Asian banking economy into our country, which, as Mr. Miller pointed out, in a negotiation between the government and the China government would allow for such low interest rates, such as 3 and 4%.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine what that could do to help businesses in our country, in our country, to help government programs in our country, for instance, such as the mortgage relief program, if they were able to guarantee millions upon millions of dollars at such low interest rates. You know, it would help to boost our economy. It's also a greater opportunity for the current government, which started this program with Bahama, to re-examine, to revisit the heads of agreement and strengthen that, to ensure that Bahamians benefit even greater from this project, Steve. And so even in the midst of this crisis, there is great opportunity
There's
for
a
the
silver
Bahamas
lining.
government
I agree with you.
to take full advantage of if we could stay focused, if we could keep our head above the noise in the market, in particular the naysayers, and do right on behalf of the majority of
I agree
Bahamians,
with you.
which they were put in place to govern for.
Well said. And you know what? The only thing that you missed out is that we have got to insist that the experts who know the art of negotiation and who have the expertise in certain areas of this new way forward are involved. You
I agree, sir.
You agree with me.
Please.
We're on the same page. I appreciate it.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you. All the best. That's what I'm talking about. It's our problem. There are some among us who could care less. Let the country fall and break up, and we'll come and try to fix it together again. Boy, once you head down the road of a failed state, you don't usually turn back. Hard copy, how are you?
Mr. McKinney, how are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right. So that last caller basically said what I wanted to say, but I would add to it by saying that, Mr. McKinney, we're dealing with people who really are protecting their own interests. And I think what we can learn from this is that as a Bahamian government, we have to protect our interests.
Yes, sir.
And what Leslie Miller is talking about as far as saying, who could not agree with that? We can't stand by and watch it go down.
No, sir.
Okay?
Not an
Just as a
option.
lesson. I think that we could move even away from Bahamas with a lot of other heads of agreement that we have. We need to examine,
Yes, sir.
choose, and examine all of them and look at it for what is the best for Bahamians. When it comes to negotiation, we have to realize who has the power. If these people want to come to our country, they're not coming here because they like us, okay?
That's right. They see
They're
an
not
opportunity to
coming
make
here
money.
because they're looking to bail our country out. They are here because it's an advantage for them to be here.
That's
The
right.
second that is not an advantage for them, you see they usually pack their Georgie bundle and leave the country, and leave the bills that they incur while they're here, sir.
Yes.
So what we need to do is to better negotiate our angle of power. Okay, then we bail them out, like Leslie Miller said, if we go that route. Then we need to say, hey, look here, we need to rethink this position, we need to rethink and stand firm on it, sir. I think what we could do is, like I said, from the power that we have, I don't know how to really say it, but whatever power we have, use that leverage for the Bahamian people.
I appreciate you calling.
Sell them the land, but let them know you all got this land, but look here, we need some schools. Take it or leave it. And 9 times out of 10, they would build the schools.
I appreciate what you're saying. You know, way back in the days of the Bible, the Lord told Moses, what is that you have in your hand? He says, a rod. He says, use it. You know what the story is there? Use what you have. What do you have? You got a whole paradise. You got a jurisdiction that these guys want to be in. You know the real story. You know that they helping Ismailian because they want to be in this position here, where they are, in this geography. Ismailian ain't really no big player as far as they're concerned. They meet him a dime a dozen every day. He may be a big deal to us as a resident of the country, but they see these guys a dime a dozen every second of the day from all over the world. They have a particular interest in this country. The beautiful sea, the fishes in the sea, the natural resources. The Chinese have done their investigation. They're not stupid people. They know what's going on. Sure, they'd like to be here. They have 7% of the land mass. They got all these people that they got to feed. They're looking for offshore places to do things. They ain't got no place to grow nothing. We got 700 islands in the sun. We were flabbergasted when they came and they were building Burma and they crack up our conch shell. You know how long conch shell been around? Conch shell been around a long time. Perhaps from the beginning of the world. You know how much uses they have for conch shell? The Arawaks used them. The early settlers used them. If you look at the houses at Clifton now, the ones that we are preserving in our heritage trappings out there, Clifton Key, if you look on the inside of those houses, you'd see grind up, powdered down, smashed down conch shells that they placed on the wall as paint that is still standing in color today. But the Chinese came and they crack up some conch shell and turn them inside out and put them around the roundabout. You remember that? Ooh, everybody said. You don't know what to do with them conch shell, but they know what to do with it. They're interested in this place. Now, we got to understand, what does that mean to them? How important is that to them? That's how governments think. You don't think in terms of, well, they've been around a long time and they're bigger than we. You think we run things, yeah, this is our territory. Now, how can we help you and how may we be of service? And when they say, you say, well, that's going to cost you. And you put your guidelines down. Simple, basic negotiations. One of the first things that you say off the top, while we may consider your presence among us to be a part of what we are doing for export, the landmass, the facade, the architecture will not be changed to anything that replicates or duplicates China. That's how you begin your negotiation. In other words, you're not going to transport China in Bahamas and make this a China of the Caribbean. It's not going to look like that. And when you see that they're interested in that, then you know what you're dealing with. But this is ideology. You have to put your cards on the table. You come to us. Okay, good. Now, how we may help you? Yes, we're courteous. we're interested, but let me set the parameters. This is my territory. And as I say this today, friends, I could only think of one man who had the nerve, the gall, the gumption, the courage to do such a thing. Well, two. The first one, Lyndon Pinland. The second one, to some extent, Hubert Ingram, from a dogmatic, I want this thing point of view, not necessarily from a philosophical, idealistic point of view, because, some of these guys waver anything. They think this one is better than that. Just like us right now. We do it every day. We think the Chinese food is better than Bahamian food. Do you know how many Bahamians eat Chinese food every day? This is how you understand what I'm talking about. We don't even know what is peas and rice and steamed jackfish. It's supposed to be a national dish, but hey, who's looking? Let's eat some Szechuan chicken. Let's eat some sweet and sour pork. Oh, I love Chinese food too. Don't think I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is that when you got an ideology and you've got a philosophy and you've got a determination of a vision to build a country that's Bahamian, you got certain parameters for anybody coming in. You got to start from there. If I can give you a hint, I can tell you this: the way that we've been doing things, we're likely to see Bay Street transformed into China. Hard copy. How are you?
McKinney.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir?
Peace and love. I good.
Enjoying the show. I think what we ought to do, at first I was agreeing with Mr. Miller.
Mm-hmm.
As I listened to the conversation as some of your callers call, I think the first thing we ought to do is look at the inventory of what we have. As a people, look at ourselves. Why should we so quickly to go running to the Chinese?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And sign an agreement? I think that's been our problem. We've been that so quickly to sign agreements. I think the first thing we need to do, look around what we have.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do we need to complete the project?
Mm-hmm.
Whether 300 million, 400 million.
Mm-hmm.
We might not need that much money to complete the project.
Mm-hmm.
We might have presidents here like Nigel, who says he's a Bahamian. He's worth 1.7 billion, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Bahamian.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we go to Nigel or something like that? I'm just saying to you, why don't we look at what we have?
Yeah, let's explore our options.
Explore option, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what got us in the problem before. Or as Mr. Miller said, you need to go run to fly a plane and hop and sign an agreement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you need to do? Come to BM people and talk and discuss the issue first.
Yeah.
And everybody give an idea as you are tonight, asking people, what is your opinion? I think that methodology of that Mr. Miller said, let's hop on the plane, he's a fly right away, has got us into this problem. We need to stop and think and look at this Bahamas and see. You know what is amazing to me, Mr. McKinney? When I look at that I know it's swaying off the topic. But when I look at this John Canoe thing we had just recently.
Yeah, the carnival.
Carnival John Canoe. When I look at the relays, when you let the Bahamian pull off the box, and they say, oh, we didn't have no murders and nothing like that. What do they expect of us? They need to lift the bar for Bahamians and watch us excel and exceed. The problem is we are in a box, and we are just congested, and ideas are not flowing.
Yeah.
We need to have the way that we can have creativity stimulated, that the Bahamians can grow, that we can flow. And then we'll see things happen in this country that the world will just say, wow, this is us. The same way they said at the relays.
Yeah.
The real relays. Why it is amazing, like we don't have no killing when we have these events on fighting, when we had the Bahamas, the thing we had on Awaki. We don't have no fighting, nothing like that.
Yeah, it's a Bahamian conflict, yeah.
When we had the conflict the other day, no violence.
Yeah.
When you let the Bahamian out of the cage, out of the box, and we are like crowds. We are like the black crowds in the box. And every now and then the air conditioner getting cut off. What do you expect? So what we need to do, open up the box, let ideas flow. Bahamians have a lot of potential. They're going to school, colleges. Bahamians can do so much.
Well, you know why, and I agree with you, but you know why the ideas are not floating out there, and why there's not sufficient involvement from those who have the degree, from those who are available to make things happen. It's because leadership is a very constricting thing. It seems that we don't know how to live and let live, how to appreciate each other's talents and gifts that God gave us. We don't know how to do that. We have to learn. We have to rethink ourselves. We have to fix our heads in a way where we are going to live, let live. We're going to involve people with talents, not based upon who know you or who friend you belong to or who lover you are, but because the fella can do the job, let's go. See, that's how you build a country. But until we open, and see, we got fooled into believing that these slogans that we love to hold on to, we believe in Bahamians, the Bahamas is the greatest place on earth. See, when we get caught up with the kind of language and the kind of propaganda with these kinds of things without really having the real believing, the believability factor in there, that we truly believe that in our hearts, nothing can happen. It's only lip service. And that's what the problem is.
Right? And I don't think it's good to go back to the Chinese and put all our eggs. We didn't talk about putting all our eggs in the same basket.
Yeah, I think what Leslie said, and credit to him, I think what he is saying, brother, and I thank you for your call, I think what Leslie is saying basically is that we are in a desperate situation that is not completely finished yet. In other words, we had this good thing going with Ismailian and the Chinese Exim Bank and this construction company that's supposed to be doing this stuff, that it is not too far removed to try to save it. That's what he's saying. Try to save where the project is going with the same players. And that's why he's thinking an urgent exit to go from one government to another government instead of the Chinese government dealing with a private company. Because since we're all affected, it is a great idea that we ought to get out there as quickly as we can to save a situation that's failing. That's what Leslie's talking about. Now, some people believe it's already failed completely. There may still be some hope, because don't forget, Prime Minister Christie is still negotiating behind closed doors with the players to get them to see the same light, to see the same vision, and it doesn't look like it's happening. And so maybe Christie ought to abandon that before the whole thing shuts down completely, and it starts to stand there stale. That he may want to move fast to see if he can do something to intervene at another level, which is at the bank, which is at the Chinese government. Say, look here, we got a problem in the Bahamas. This is what the problems are. How can you make sure that this don't be a failure for us? That's what Leslie's talking about. And that's a good option too. Hard copy, how are you?
How are you doing, Steve?
Very good, thanks.
Yeah, Steve, one of the things that I always have is the so-called dependency on foreign investment. I think this is a unique opportunity for us to rethink ourselves.
Yes.
We are in the knowledge economy, the knowledge-based economy, the creative economy, etc., 21st century. I just would like for you to imagine that the government would now focus on, say, 1,000 youths, utilizing digital platforms such as e-commerce to find 100 customers to spend $100 with them. And you will see the multiplier effect. I think that's about $120, $130 million into the economy instantaneously, just selling other people products, ideas, etc. When you use the so-called multiplier effect like they use for Junkanoo, you're talking about a $450 million injection in the economy almost immediately, and we're only talking about 1,000 students. I think considering our young demographics and these thousands of young people that's graduating out of school, that can easily within 6 weeks be taught the basics of the knowledge economy, we can utilize that to begin to stabilize the economy. Secondly, those individuals at Bahama took the opportunity to somewhat prepare a young dynamic team. This is another opportunity for the Ministry of Tourism to hijack those individuals while they're in limbo, to move towards utilizing these same 21st century platforms for an aggressive marketing campaign.
Yes,
of
I like that.
Bahama Islands.
I like that.
And begin to build a new type of dynamic type industry for which other countries in the Caribbean and South America could begin to look to the Bahamas for this new knowledge economy to begin to market their processes. And all of this is basically rethinking how we fit into the dynamics of tourism, the 21st century, and whatever else we're going to do in the Caribbean and South America.
I like it. I like it. I think you're onto something here. I like that. Thank you very much. And it is a very good idea. While these people are complacent, while these people are in limbo, take advantage of the training that they've had in the kind of IT and everything else to remarket the Bahamas with the oncoming headwinds of Cuba and Aruba and all these other places that are doing things. We have got to rethink our position. There's no question about that, because the world is opening up. There's more competition, And places with better destinations or more things to do will be ahead of the pack, even though they may have been stagnant for 50 years. And I'm talking about Cuba. Even though the mystique alone of them opening, never mind all this talk about people saying, well, it's not really going to affect the Bahamas. That's foolishness. If you believe that, then you believe that Bahamas going to open tomorrow night. Don't mind that. That's talk. Know the difference. We ought to be concerned, and we ought to be preparing, not just concerned, but to do something about it. And that idea just now from Critical Think is a very good idea. And it ought to be looked at and developed. Because those people ain't got nothing to do. You had a fella, he was in the kitchen, now he gonna go do landscaping. He gotta eat. Could you imagine if we find the means to do something with those who've already gotten the training to do a new marketing campaign, exterior of the Bahamas to the world, to bring them here? Something could happen. And I'm not talking about bringing them here for Junkanoo Carnival. We can have that every year, apparently. But you know, there's only so much. And we wait for the 21-day report from Paul Major. He perhaps will give us some good news of how this affected or impacted the GDP in ways unimaginable, in ways so impressive that we're going to walk around and kiss him on the mouth for being such a genius. That's how much we love him. Mwah! Right there, on the lips. Steve, you could kiss him by yourself, eh? Hard copy, how are you?
Yes, a very good afternoon, Mr. McKinney, and a very good afternoon to the Bahamas.
Thank you.
Mr. McKinney, you know, one of the things you must always bear in mind that when Sir Lyndon in his wisdom was training his protégés, he never had them to work apart. It was always a team effort. You know, and one of the things we must realize as Bahamians, when something is of national importance, we need to put away colors and party and look at the national interest of our country.
Mm-hmm.
If Bahama fails, then the country fails. Right now, I don't care how persons may beg to differ. I think right now, Mr. Christie needs to extend the olive branch to Mr. Ingram and say, look, brother, I need you right now to be my number one. Because let's look at it. From Mr. Christie was prime minister, he has never taken a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
You ever wondered why? I leave that in the air. So if he can't take a vacation because he see that everything will go to shambles, then right now his best friend, he needs to pull him out and say, look, come, go with me, hold my hand, you be the maximum leader, and I will do. Because guess what? Persons, and Dr. Monroe always spoke about this, the number one person never go in a meeting to bargain for a country.
True.
So he send the number two because he know the number two cannot authorize. If he is in that meeting and he says, yes, this is going to happen, then it has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Ismaili can't make no major decision when it comes to the Bahamian people land, you know. That is one of the reasons. And these people ain't no fool. That's why one of the reasons they negotiate, they want the number one person. So if the number one person's signature is there, then they say, look, this is what you said, even though you may not understand Mandarin. Another thing you find that as Bahamians, those engineers that we have who, and the field of the expertise need to come together and say, look, we will go in and do our own safety inspection and see exactly what is happening and give a report to the government. You know, it is so important when to whom much is given, much is required. And that too will also place them in a position where they too would then be respected around the world. Say, look, we have discovered some things that were inferior, and we now were in the position to correct it. Because when whoever lay in those beds, it could be a national disaster.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to say we're cutting off from not having a national disaster, Bahamians are qualified. Why is it that we do not give something back to our country? It isn't every time you're going to always have monies coming in, you know. You cannot pay for your exposure. Another thing, Mr. McKinney, you find that in our country, the time has come when all of the stakeholders in our country need to look at it and ask, where do we want our country to go? Because every time it appears as though something major needs to be brought to the public, we wait till everybody's having a party, then we let everybody know what is going on. Mr. Miller might have done a good thing because as one who has privy to the information, he's trying to tell the government, hey, look, you sitting around with some old guys who ain't thinking outside the box. They have failed in their financial planning, so you need to look to the young people. So give the young people an opportunity, and that's what Dr. Miles Monroe mantra was. We need to plan for succession planning. Where's the young people in all of this?
I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. It makes sense. I appreciate it. Well, friends, I plan to read you some text messages if my producer could get it here on my computer screen. I shall read you what people are saying today. I'm hoping that there are people who have contributed today by text that gives us a good insight as to where we should be going. The questions that we ask, they're simple. Should there be a new mandate by this government? They need a new mandate. And a new mandate may mean, hey, let's call it an election and get this over and done with and see if we can see the people are still willing to back us. But, most persons involved with the governing party right now will balk at that. That's not an option for them to do, simply because they don't have the confidence that the Bahamian people have the confidence in them to re-elect them. If they were to call an election right now, what do you think would happen? Don't answer. Just think of that right now. Maybe the governing party would get back in if, in fact, the opposition is perceived to be not really ready. Maybe. But then again, maybe the people chuck these guys to the side and say, we don't want to see y'all no more for another 100 years. What's in the government? Promises in the government. What's in the government? Hope is in the government. And if people stop hoping and dreaming of what the great prosperity will be, nothing is going to move them to keep you on. It's that simple. Jamaica went through the same phases, one government to the next. We're now in that same dispensation. This government then to throw them away because Bahamians, quite frankly, they vote against you. They don't vote for you. If they vote against the fellow who they don't like, then you get in. They don't really vote to say we want a new one because they better. No, sir, not him. So we ask you today, if we're building a country, how do we build this country? We have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create. Are we doing that? We've got a people to inspire and empower. Are we doing that? We've got generations of born and unborn Bahamians to protect and plan for. Are we doing that? Forget the rhetoric. Forget the propaganda. Are we doing those simple things? Because that's what really counts. And that's why it's scary. And that's why it seems to be urgent. Stafka, can you bring me my text messages, please? And that's what it's all about. So I'm looking here and I'm saying, boy, we've got all kinds of people saying all kinds of things in the country. That's divided politically, that's upset, that's at a loss with jobs, that is looking for a way out, that is not impressed with the governance of things in a big way, that has an unemployment level that's going through the ceiling, that has a group of people coming out looking for jobs in June, where unemployment in New Providence is now up to 16% and growing, and in Grand Bahama increasing from 14.7 to 18.6%. We look at what is going on and we say, what are we going to do? How do we break this thing, this stuff that's on us, this curse, some people would say in the church? We look at the pending layoffs in BTC and BEC, and Scotia Bank and Royal Bank and all these banks closing and moving things. I mean, are we falling apart? Something to think about. Now, you would say people are always doing things, but no, not like this. All of this happened in 3 years' time. We look at the industrial action that looms. BEC union ready. If they try any foolishness down, that mean that fellow will have them outside in a minute. You could be assured of that. Nicole Martin can't get them people the gratuity money down, and Bahama involved, they would be outside in a minute. We can't afford them kind of things. These are the realities. And you got the people at Water and Sewage Corporation, they ain't happy. Some of the airline pilots are still not happy. These things are just smoldering, you know. We haven't corrected them. They went back to work, but they still exist. The airport, the air traffic controllers. Everywhere you look, there's something smoldering, waiting to erupt. It's a rough time being the government. Christie's plate is full. Can the people of God pray for Christie and for the government? Because this is real. This ain't no jokey thing. It's real. Small businesses laying off even more Bahamians because of increasing taxes. This value-added tax thing, while we're paying it, it's sucking us dry. We need it. We have to pay it to keep the dollar where it's supposed to be. And hopefully the monies will be spent on the real things and not going to some slush fund or some foolish stuff or bad investment. We have problems with chronic power outages, baby. Serious stuff. Who's going to want to invest where we're not so sure and guaranteed with the electrical supply? Atlantis had serious meetings with BEC in recent times about, you all got to do better. You can imagine big hotels like that, half-part shut down. I was just there just recently, must have been Sunday or Saturday, and I was told that there was a part there that was still trying to catch itself from the blackouts and the burning generators and to keep things going. Ain't nobody's going to invest like that here if we can't get those things guaranteed. These are very important things. And then the government has to be more transparent on this power supply of this Power Secure company. More has to come out. We need to know what the problems are, what we are really going to do with them. How are we going to be a part of that? How are they going to help to manage BEC? We got to talk about these things and get them out in the open so that we can get constructive criticism early in the game before they just do things, as I said earlier in the show tonight, and then we learn about it after they then do it because they operate in stealth, and then we got to go and try to see how we can fix that. A lot of work to be done, friends. This is serious business. No more time for carnivals and parties. In fact, there's a moratorium now on that. I declare today that we are putting a moratorium on such activities. We got work to do. Let's get our work done, then we can party. Let me take some text messages here this afternoon before I end it. This person says, hard copy, our nation is slack, lawless and corrupt. It starts from the head. So does the head, leaders, so does the body, the people. Steve, we lack leadership. Our leaders seem only interested in partying and a good time. But when that is over, we're right back to where we started from. These are text messages coming in. Hi, Steve. I don't know why we think we can build a country on lies and deception. When Hubert Alexander Ingham told us that the nation was broke and he had to make some tough decisions, many thought he was cruel. Now reality is set in. We have now jumped out of the frying pan into the fire. This person says, Steve, I am a female and I have been passing and looking at that cheap work at Bahama. $3 billion? Hell no. Not even 3 million, Steve. Some other expert says about 800 million by a stretch is what we put into that so far. But no one is asking that question there, Nobody's told me if they think that is $3.5 billion standing there or sitting there or whatever you say, resting there or occupying the space. This one says, desperate times call for desperate action. This government needs to open their mouth to resolve the Bahama situation. Forget about ego and pride. This is no time to be dicta. There's too much at stake. This one says, Steve, thank you for your educating us. Christie needs to be honest. I almost quit my job for Bahama. My shore job, I think is what they want to say. I almost quit my shore job for Bahama. This one says, Steve, we all complain and talk every day of our lives and want to attack the pink and don't want to attack the pink elephant in the room. We must call out and get rid of the corrupt friends, families, and lovers from among us. They are literally killing all of us. Steve, what that person says. Another one says, good afternoon. I looked at Mr. Christie. He don't appear to know what he's doing anymore. he need to take his hat off and let someone else run his ministers. But he could still be the prime minister. This one says, hi, Steve Turner here. This is a PLP problem because the emperor is only listening to the persons who congratulate him on his new clothes. Someone needs to convince the PM to rid himself of the yes men surrounding him and accept sound advice. Turner, I thank you very much for that. And it's good stuff. This one says, Steve, let the numbers boys finish it. Steve, let the numbers boys finish it. Well, let me stop right there for a second and say this. Paul Major, the same man who is in this apparent fantasy world, it appears that he's in a fantasy world with the numbers conjectured with the Junkanoo Carnival, 17 million from Freeport and 50 to 60 million in Nassau last week. He's the same guy, Paul Major, who was talking all this stuff about numbers and was one of the persons who, from the numbers shops, based upon them hiring him to perhaps do some numbers, got this whole thing moving in the wrong direction, I dare say, and he could correct me if I'm wrong, in a big way when he says that the number industry is a $450 million industry per year. You know, the governor of the Bahamas took his advice and made legislation and run to the parliament to pass numbers in this country because they figured that's the kind of money that is generated in numbers. I don't know how that could be. This little Bahamas, we have people with that kind of money to spend on numbers every day. Come now, let us. But that's what was said. So a lot of things were based upon Christie them going to run and do these things based upon this big pot of gold, this elusive pot of gold of $450 million a year with the number shops. So this person says, Steve, let the numbers boys finish it. One hotel for each of them. They are clever. Call Wayne Monroe and let's figure this out. Home with our own. By the way, I voted not, but I rather deal with my own. This person says, Mr. Monroe, what is this? Oh, Dr. Monroe is so correct, Steve. Prime Minister Christie, them speaking the same damn language, and they still don't understand what the mess they have gotten us in. That's deep. And of course, people are commenting. You can see these comments posted on our Facebook page tonight if you want to go and take a look at it and see what people are saying, because they are listening. They are trying to participate in a way that's giving commentary, criticism, constructive criticism, and even suggestions for solutions to the problems that we face. But we are out of time, friends, and that's all I can give you tonight. No more energy from me tonight. I'll have to put some on reserve for tomorrow, because tomorrow's another day, God willing, and there are many things that we have to talk about. But in this series, we're talking about serious business. I'm trying to re-engage the Bahamian people on serious matters of interest, national interest. There's no time for partying. We then party. Now that we then party, as the song say, we then drink all the rum, we then eat all the food. Now my words to that song, let's get down to business and move this country forward. Can we do that? Thank you for your participation today. We thank you so much, and we hope that you will join us again tomorrow on Hard Copy at 5 o'clock, because we have to reset. We have to reset the station, the country. We've got to reset. We've got to pivot and, what's it called? Recalibrate. So that we can get to where we want to go. And that's what I have for you today on this 13th day of May, 2015, the year of our Lord. We need to rebuild, regroup, and progress the Bahamas. Irvin Weish has been my producer tonight. We say good night from Hard Copy. Hard Copy is a presentation of Bank of the Bahamas, BTC Every Day, Super Value, the McKinney Media Group, Island Made Products,